Trust is a fragile thing. For Angela Craig, that trust would become deadly. A devoted mother of 6, she relied on the person she loved most, her husband. But in March 2023, something unimaginable happened. The protein shakes he prepared to support her health became the weapon that ended her life. This is the shocking story of betrayal, poison, and murder behind closed doors. Angela Craig was a 43-year-old mother of 6 living in Aurora, Colorado. Known for her devotion to her family, she was dedicated to raising her children and maintaining her household, often putting the needs of others before her own. Her husband, James Craig, was a dentist, and together they had been married for over 20 years. They had built a life together that appeared on the surface to be typical and happy, raising 6 children and running a dental practice. But behind the facade of suburban normalcy, tensions were growing. By March 2023, Angela's life would be tragically cut short by a shocking act. This is the story of Angela Craig, her life, her family, and the events that led to a courtroom battle and the revelation of a devastating betrayal. Angela and James met in college, drawn together by shared ambitions and a seemingly deep connection. Shortly after graduation, they were married, full of hope for the life they would build together. Early accounts describe them as a dedicated couple who balanced their professional ambitions with a desire to raise a family. In the early years of marriage, James focused on building his dental practice, while Angela managed the household and cared for their growing children. Friends and family described a household that was busy but happy, full of family routines, school events, and community involvement. Angela was at the centre of the family, organising birthdays, helping with homework, and providing care for each child individually. Managing a household with 6 children was demanding. Angela worked hard to keep their lives structured and stable, juggling school schedules, extracurricular activities, and the daily logistics of a large family. On the surface, the Craigs projected the image of a dedicated, loving household, but tensions were quietly building. Financial pressures and James' long hours at the dental practice added to the strain. Friends and neighbours recalled Angela appearing increasingly stressed and worried, and testimony later revealed she had voiced her concerns about his lack of involvement at home. Still, Angela remained focused on her children's well-being and committed to holding the family together. By early March 2023, Angela's health began to deteriorate rapidly. What started as vague symptoms of persistent headaches, dizziness, and nausea soon became much more severe. At first, she believed it might just be stress, exhaustion, or perhaps even a viral illness. But her condition worsened so quickly that she sought medical attention multiple times. Over the course of just 2 weeks, Angela went to the hospital 3 separate times with unexplained symptoms. On her 3rd visit, her condition significantly worsened. She suffered seizures and neurological decline, and the doctors had made the decision to put her on life support. Angela never regained consciousness, and 3 days later she was declared brain dead. On March 18, 2023, Angela Craig had died, leaving behind 6 children and a devastated community. When Angela had died, doctors had already raised red flags. Her symptoms didn't match any common illness they could identify, and her rapid decline made them suspect the possibility of poisoning. Toxicology tests later confirmed their fears. Angela's body contained cyanide and tetrahydrozoline, a chemical commonly found in eye drops. With those results, the case immediately shifted from a medical mystery to a criminal investigation. Very quickly, suspicion turned towards Angela's husband, James Craig. Investigators began piecing together a troubling trail of evidence. In the weeks before Angela's hospitalisation, James had placed online orders for both arsenic and cyanide, using his own email and credit card. Detectives also recovered a series of chilling internet searches from his computer. Amongst them were questions like, "Is arsenic detectable in an autopsy?" and "Top 5 undetectable poisons that show no sign of foul play." These searches had been made shortly before Angela fell ill. Friends and family told investigators that James often made protein shakes for Angela, especially before her workouts. This detail stood out, since prosecutors would later argue that the shakes were the method he used to administer the poisons. Hospital staff also reported behaviour from James that struck them as unusual. While Angela's condition worsened, he appeared detached, at times even discouraging certain medical treatments. But what stood out the most was the timing of his actions. As Angela lay in the hospital fighting for her life, James was communicating with another woman, a Texas orthodontist with whom he had been romantically involved. With Angela's unexplained decline, the confirmed presence of poison in her system, and the mounting evidence linking James to both the toxins and a motive, detectives had enough evidence to charge him. And on March 19th, just one day after Angela's death, James Craig was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. James Craig's trial became one of the most closely followed cases in Colorado in 2024. Prosecutors laid out a timeline showing how he carefully planned Angela's death. They presented receipts from online orders of cyanide and arsenic, computer records of poison-related searches, and testimony from hospital staff who recalled his strange behaviour while Angela was in their care. Prosecutors argued that James used Angela's protein shakes to deliver the poison. The pattern was clear. Whenever she consumed one of the shakes he prepared, her symptoms worsened. Digital evidence also showed that James had researched poisons just days before placing his orders. To strengthen their case, prosecutors highlighted James's double life. They revealed that, while Angela was dying in hospital, James was in contact with another woman he had met online. This affair, they said, gave him motive. He wanted freedom from his marriage so he could pursue the new relationship. The defence tried to raise doubt. They suggested the chemicals might have been purchased for James's dental practice and questioned whether Angela could have ingested the substances herself. But the jury had little difficulty weighing the evidence. The digital searches, the purchases, the hospital testimony, and the affair all pointed in the same direction. After deliberating, the jury returned a guilty verdict. James Craig was convicted of first-degree murder, solicitation to commit murder, and other related charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought an end to months of speculation and a trial that revealed the full extent of James Craig's betrayal. With the guilty verdict and a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, the court confirmed what Angela's family and friends had come to fear. Her death was not a result of illness or accident, but a deliberate murder at the hands of her husband. For Angela's children, the outcome was devastating. They had already lost their mother, and now their father, the man who should have protected their family, was convicted of her murder. The case shocked the Aurora community and beyond. Angela had been known as a loving, devoted mother, someone who poured her energy into her 6 children and her household. Her death was not only a personal tragedy, but a reminder of how violence can hide in plain sight, even within the walls of a family home. Experts noted that Angela's case highlighted the difficulty of detecting slow poisoning and the need for medical professionals to consider foul play when symptoms don't fit typical patterns. The story also raised awareness about the misuse of substances like cyanide and tetrahydrozoline chemicals that, while rare in everyday life, can be obtained online with alarming ease. Angela Craig is remembered not only for the way she died, but for the life she lived, dedicated, caring, and deeply loved by her children. The trial may have answered questions of how she died, but it left her family to grapple with the far harder question of why. Cases like Angela's force us to ask hard questions about trust, relationships, and the warning signs we sometimes overlook. What do you think? Were there signs James Craig's darker side was showing long before Angela's death, or was this a betrayal no one could have predicted? Share your ideas in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, take care and thank you for watching.